I didn't even realise that it was their 6th wedding anniversary until somebody mentioned it, and I thought, oh yeah, there wasn't much about it.
No, I don't think it's a great big point in their life together, really. It probably makes their stomach rumble when they think about it. But
if someone questioned your children's parentage publicly, you'd probably be angry. But you'd also do one simple thing. Angela Levin publicly demanded DNA proof, and Harry's camp did not produce one. Royal biographer Levin has made what she calls a surgical challenge to Harry's credibility. His response reveals everything. This isn't just tabloid dirt. It could affect the monarchy itself.
they've done something quietly. But I don't think so. I don't think they deserve to be blessed by the time that they've been together.
Instead of the transparency we've seen from other royals, Harry and Meghan have built what critics call a wall of secrecy around their children. Critics argue that when succession is at stake, privacy claims lose weight, and Levin says DNA would settle it. But Levin's challenge was different. It wasn't casual speculation or royal gossip.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. There's been talk that they're getting on very well with Netflix, but I don't believe that for a second. So it would look like that they're actually trying to get somebody else who's very important. And
Angela Levin, a royal biographer with years of experience covering Harry's public life, didn't dance around the issue. She made what sources call a calculated strike that cut straight to the heart of Harry's credibility. For years, Levin watched the Sussex drama unfold from the sidelines, offering commentary here and there. But this time, she crossed a line that Harry apparently thought was protected territory.
Get them going. But they might get on very well with this man, but I think it's always very difficult for people because they run out of steam with the Sussexes. You know, they start.
Her challenge wasn't about Harry's parenting skills or Meghan's mothering abilities. It was about something far more fundamental and legally verifiable. Levin demanded scientific proof rather than palace statements or celebrity magazine exclusives. The biographer's words cut through years of speculation with clinical precision. She pointed out that all the angry press releases mean nothing. All the sources close to the Sussexes, all the legal threats, all the outraged statements from Harry's team, none of it matters if Harry can't back up his claims with laboratory results. The math is simple and brutal.
But it's time now for royal author and Prince Harry's biographer, Angela Levin. And just when things seem to be looking up for the runaway royals, with a mooted Emmy nomination, normal business has resumed. The Sussexes' Netflix ballfest, exposing the grubby details of their row with the firm, has been completely snubbed for a gong.
Levin framed it as a binary choice: provide the test results that would silence critics forever, or continue hiding behind lawyers and public relations team. She exposed something Harry apparently never expected: that his privacy arguments might not hold up when constitutional questions are involved. The royal biographer's demand was devastating because of its simplicity. One test, definitive results, end of controversy.
List of huge snubs for the couple, not least getting dumped from their £20 million Spotify contract and being called effing grifters, no less, by a furious boss at the streaming giant. So, Angela, there's even a question mark over the Netflix deal. Has the halo...
Reports say Harry's immediate response revealed everything about his position. Instead of confidence, he showed what critics call defensive behavior. Instead of transparency, he chose legal threats and public accusations against journalists. The pattern became clear: attack the messenger while avoiding the message completely. You know what innocent people typically do when someone questions their children's parentage? They get a test. They prove the accusers wrong with hard evidence that shuts down speculation permanently. They don't hire lawyers and issue statements about privacy violations.
And yes, very much so. The interesting thing is that Meghan applied to be a judge on the Emmys, which is really funny because the only she would vote for would be her own documentary, but she didn't get away with that. And they've really snubbed her because not one person...
Levin's framing shifted the debate from privacy to a demand for verifiable proof, which critics say changes how the public views Harry's response. The biographer transformed the narrative from Harry as victim of unfair scrutiny into questions about why he won't provide basic transparency about constitutional matters. The timing of Harry's legal threats actually made things worse. Every angry statement from his team reinforced the narrative that he's avoiding something important. Every lawyer's letter suggested that scientific proof might not support his position. Otherwise, why not use laboratory results to destroy his critics permanently?
where. They have got a much secondary one with a Hollywood thing, which is streaming non-fiction. But of course, actually, a lot of what that documentary, Harry and Meghan, was fiction. I mean, they made it up and they lied. And
What made Levin's challenge so effective was how it reframed the entire controversy. She stopped treating this as a privacy issue and started treating it as a constitutional verification problem. The royal biographer essentially asked, if you want your children recognized as legitimate heirs to the throne, shouldn't their parentage be as transparent as every other royal birth in modern history? But what exactly would a DNA test change? We'll explain in the constitutional section. Harry walked into a trap he apparently didn't see coming. The biographer had successfully shifted the burden of proof from critics to Harry himself, and that demand for proof didn't come from nowhere.
Actually about the royal family and how they behaved. And the classic one, which everybody remembers, is the way she mimicked or mocked the late Queen Elizabeth when she sort of put her arms out and bent down. And Harry looked absolutely shocked by it, but he didn't dare say.
Royal births have always followed a pattern of public verification because succession affects the constitutional order. When Kate Middleton had George, Charlotte, and Louis, the world got those iconic Lindo Wing Steps photos within hours. Medical bulletins confirmed the births. Traditional protocol was followed down to the last detail. Unlike William and Kate, who posed on the Lindo Wing Steps after births, Archie and Lilibet's arrivals lacked the same public step-out and the usual public medical bulletins, creating a much quieter timeline. The contrast couldn't be more striking if they'd planned it that way. You remember Kate's appearances outside the Lindo Wing? She stood on those hospital steps smiling with newborns just hours after giving birth. The world saw proof of life, proof of birth, proof that everything had happened according to established royal custom. Those weren't just photo opportunities, they were constitutional confirmations. Compare that to the complete media blackout surrounding Archie and Lilibet's arrivals. No hospital steps appearance, no standard medical announcements, no witnesses beyond Harry and Meghan's inner circle. The information vacuum they created left royal watchers and constitutional experts deeply troubled, especially given these children's places in the succession. These aren't celebrity babies we're talking about. They're potential heirs to the throne. The British monarchy operates on transparency about succession specifically because legitimacy depends on verifiable bloodlines. Royal protocol exists for constitutional reasons, not just tradition. When previous royal births happened, there were witnesses, medical professionals, official documentation, all the things that make succession claims legally sound. Critics point out that when you accept royal titles and succession rights for your children, you also accept certain transparency obligations. Constitutional monarchy comes with strings attached. You can't claim the benefits while rejecting the responsibilities that make those benefits legitimate. The deviation from protocol didn't just fuel gossip. It created constitutional questions that privacy arguments can't resolve. Critics say the lack of standard transparency invited speculation, including unconfirmed whispers about surrogacy and reports about unusual bump appearances that might have been avoided with standard announcements. When William and Kate had their children, nobody questioned their parentage because the process was transparent from start to finish. Harry and Meghan's approach made their children's royal status more vulnerable to challenge rather than protecting it. The quiet approach that was supposed to shield Archie and Lilibet actually made them targets for exactly the kind of speculation that Angela Levin capitalized on. You know what's ironic? The privacy they fought so hard to maintain ended up creating more scrutiny, not less. Their secrecy became the story, rather than their children's births. They turned what should have been celebrations into constitutional mysteries. And those mysteries have implications that go far beyond family drama. The monarchy's legitimacy depends on something most people take for granted. Succession depends on recognized lineage and public records, and ambiguity can erode the crown's legitimacy. If questions about Archie and Lilibet's parentage have merit, it would be a serious constitutional headache, not just a social scandal. Archie and Lilibet aren't just children in the public eye. They're officially recognized members of the royal family with actual places in the line of succession. Their names are on the official succession list that Parliament recognizes. That means their legitimacy affects the constitutional order of the entire United Kingdom. Legal observers warn that if parentage were seriously questioned, it could raise constitutional headaches that might require political or legal scrutiny. That's not family drama. That's a constitutional crisis that could threaten the monarchy's legitimacy and stability in ways we haven't seen in centuries. The crisis would extend far beyond Harry and Meghan's personal lives into fundamental questions about how royal succession gets verified and maintained in modern Britain. Legal experts point out that succession to the throne requires more than palace announcements and press releases. It requires verifiable bloodline connections that can withstand serious legal scrutiny. Think about what that means. The monarchy's entire legitimacy rests on clear, unquestionable lineage. You can trace every monarch's ancestry back through documented, verified bloodlines. Ambiguity in this area doesn't just create gossip, it threatens the foundation of the entire system that Britain's constitutional monarchy depends on. Observers note UK surrogacy laws complicate matters, and that makes the issue more than gossip when succession is involved. The precedent being set here affects way more than just Harry's children. This impacts the entire future of how royal births get documented and verified for constitutional purposes. If Archie and Lilibet can claim succession rights without the traditional transparency, what stops anyone else from doing the same thing? Here's where it gets really problematic. If Archie and Lilibet's status in the succession gets compromised, it raises questions about the reliability of other royal claims and the institution's credibility overall. You can't have half the royal family operating under traditional verification methods while the other half hides behind privacy arguments. The monarchy has survived for centuries because succession was always clear and verifiable. Kings and queens could trace their legitimacy through documented bloodlines that nobody could seriously challenge. That clarity gave the institution stability and public confidence. What started as whispered doubts about Harry's children has evolved into a potential constitutional crisis that transparency and scientific testing could easily resolve. The solution is simple: provide the proof that ends the speculation forever. But Harry's approach to handling these questions has created an entirely different problem. His response to the controversy reveals something critics say makes everything worse. Critics say his legal responses are backfiring because they keep the controversy alive. Defenders call it a necessary defense against vile gossip. When someone publicly questions your children's parentage, you know what most people do? They get a test. They prove the accusers wrong with hard evidence that shuts down the speculation permanently. Rather than publicly releasing DNA proof, his response, according to reports, has been legal action and public denunciations. That approach actually amplifies suspicion and gives his critics more ammunition to use against him. Every angry letter from his lawyers reinforces the narrative that he's hiding something important rather than defending legitimate privacy concerns. You see the pattern here? Harry attacks journalists and biographers while avoiding the simple test that would vindicate him completely. The resistance to DNA testing transforms what could be a quick resolution into a prolonged controversy that damages his children's reputations more than transparency ever would. Harry's approach suggests he believes the test results might not support his position. Otherwise, why not use scientific proof to destroy his critics permanently? The legal strategy backfires because it makes the DNA question the central issue rather than resolving it. Harry keeps the controversy alive indefinitely by refusing the one thing that would end it. Every legal threat becomes evidence that he's avoiding something rather than protecting something. I mean, think about the optics here. Innocent people don't typically hire lawyers when someone questions their children's parentage. They get a test, prove their point, and move on with their lives. Critics say Harry's chosen the approach that makes him look like he has something to hide. By choosing this path, Harry has trapped himself in a cycle where his resistance becomes evidence of guilt in the public mind. The shadow of doubt that a simple test could eliminate instead grows stronger with every legal threat. That shadow could potentially follow Archie and Lilibet for their entire lives. Supporters call this smear, arguing personal attacks are unfair and legally actionable. But Harry's legal team might think they're protecting his privacy while actually making the situation worse. Every angry statement from his lawyers reinforces the narrative that scientific proof might not support his claims. Otherwise, why wouldn't he use that proof to shut down his critics once and for all? The resistance strategy has turned Harry from a protective father into someone who appears to be hiding constitutional information. That's not a good look when you're asking the public to accept your children as legitimate heirs to the throne. What's really damaging is how the legal approach makes the DNA question more important, not less important. Harry has accidentally made the test the central issue, rather than resolving the speculation that prompted it in the first place. So which is it? Privacy protection or damage control? The evidence chain is clear. Levin publicly demanded DNA proof. Reports say Harry's camp has responded with legal threats rather than releasing proof, and critics warn this creates constitutional questions. Without clear, verifiable proof, doubts will linger. And that matters because these are not ordinary celebrity babies. Harry faces a choice here. Provide the DNA proof that would end this controversy forever, or watch the shadow of doubt follow his children through their entire lives. The constitutional implications mean this is no longer just about privacy. It's about the legitimacy of the royal institution and whether transparency or secrecy will define its future. Should privacy win, or should potential heirs be verified? Tell us below. Either way, this story leaves a shadow that could hang over Archie and Lilibet for years. If you want more fast updates on royal scandals like this, like and subscribe.